Synergy 2CP. For all intents and purposes, it's a Mesa Boogie Mark IIC+ clone. Running it into my old Randall RM100 that has been modified to be able to accept the Synergy modules. Very, very big thank you to Paul at uno0.de for not only providing the Midi modification that allows us to be acceptable, but answering all of my brain-dead questions when it comes to Midi, because I know about as much about Midi as modern Metallica fans know about scooping in their tone. So, I'm going to go over this module really quickly. I'm going to talk about how I dialed it in, and the things to look out if you are going to get one, what to do, what not to do. We're going to have a little bit of fun with some Mark IIC+ owners, as you'll see later. And then we'll talk about how well it gets the quote-unquote Metallica sound, because honestly that's all we really fucking care about getting this through this amplifier. That is just the essentially guitar to amp with my noise gate. There's no outboard EQs yet. There's nothing boosting the front of it. Just module, guitar, and a passive pickup. It is a Sonic Pickups Cthulhu. Kind of a just Gibson Dirty Finger and super distortion, any high gain or high output, passive output you could think of, basically that. So, I'm not going to go through adjusting the clean setting and doing all the fucking little hibbity-dibbity-doo-dah here. We don't care about that. The way I have it dialed in, I will explain why. This module does not, and I mean does not, like having this lead volume up past here. It just hates it. It will start over-distorting, it will start just farting out, it will start getting really fucking ugly. Same thing happens if you push the sliders too hard. If you push this up to the max, don't even try. So it kind of does it too if you push the middle too low, but it's not as bad. And this is just a permanent issue. Lovely. But to be fair to the Synergy module, all of my other modules in this amp do that. So I think it's just oscillation due to all the preamp tubes. There's 5 total. So, speaking of, by the way, the reason I believe that the onboard graphic EQ distorts when you push it too hard is because the original on the Mark IIC+, I'm going to mention the name, fucking is post EQ. There is no preamp tubes in between this and the power tubes on the original. On this one, there's 3, because there's 3 on the Randall, and I imagine it's the same on the Synergies. So, deal with that as you may. If you were to do the trick with the little SN1 module, where you just plug it in and then it goes into your effects loop, then it'll be a lot smoother, it'll be a lot cleaner. But if you're doing it in the front of an SN1, or if you're doing what I did and you have an old Randall and you modified it to work with it, it's going to distort a little bit. I mean, right now, honestly, doesn't sound bad. And by distort in layman's terms, I don't mean what we want is distortion, this. I mean, it just farts out. It basically just kind of fucks itself, essentially. Now, the other thing. I'm pretty sure there's going to be plenty of people right now typing in the comments going, I didn't think you could be a Mesa, I'm not good, my mercy. About that. I'm going to play a video now that has nothing else in it. Again, no outboard effects, no boosting the front. Just this amp into my 212, me playing. Short little clip. And you'll see what happens then. Okay? Okay. that was the exact same guitar, the exact same signal chain. Everything was the same as what you just heard in the previous clip. Only difference is that with the first one, the phone was here recording it, and then with that one you just heard, it was right here against the cabinet. Now, I don't have any issue with the guys in the Mesa Boogie group. They were all very nice to me when they commented. I just take issue with the fact that a lot of them will stand by the fact that there's no amp sim, there's no module that really captures the feel of the Mesa Boogie amp. And that's their justification for charging $8, $10, $12, $16,000 for a 40-year-old amp with a shared EQ stack and gain control. Now, to give them credit, it is a very unique circuit. The way that the EQ stack is done, I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about, with the EQ being pre-gain, so it acts like a boost, blah, blah, blah. But now we have a little American-made $400 module that can be used with old Chinese-made Randall amps or the American-made Egnator versions or the Synergy amps. And well, how does it sound by itself? It sounds like this. So one other thing with the 2CP that I've noticed is it does not like EQs in the loop. It just is very particular with them. I was going to use my Master Effects Puppet Master EQ, and it just sounded too processed, too solid state. I have in my old ass GE7 with no mods on it. It's just stock, and I will take a picture of the settings. It is a disgusting scoop on its own, but this is how I have it set up. So this is without it first, and you'll hear me click it on. So, you know, I think it sounds very good. I have some issues with the module, obviously, again, with the onboard graphic EQ kind of peaking, and you have to be very particular with it. The way that I recommend running it is keep the channel volume extremely low and just crank your master. And then I'm running the density completely off on the RM, the presence gained, but that's how I run it usually anyway, because it doesn't have the fog lifter mod, so regardless of that. The other big issue, of course, actually, this is not an issue with the old IIC+s, it's just an issue with this module, but if you're trying to do, you know, gainy stuff, you want to go back to your clean, you'll get kind of a slight volume jump. Like, it'll go from the volume that you have the gain mode to the clean mode, and you'll be able to hear it really quick. So if you're gonna do like you have to kind of, you know, gauge it basically, and that's, I don't know if that's just an issue of mine in particular, if that's just with the Midi, you know, in total. But I'm going to switch back to the other camera angle so you can see me, you know, show off some of the other settings I use. But now we're back in front of the cabinet, so you're going to get a lot more bottom end being picked up by my phone speaker. But yeah, I'm going to show you kind of how I dial in. Right now, this is what I call just the lead only tone, because if you try and go to the clean channel, it just starts distorting out. But this is just if you want just the lead tones, just the gain tones, this is what I'd recommend. I have the lead bright on, shift off, and I'll explain why in a second. Then for the graphic EQ, I have it kind of set to the M position, which is what James would do, where he'd boost the two inner frequencies and keep the outer ones neutral. And I have the 750 slider just above scooped out completely, because if you do that, sounds a bit too processed for me, so I bring it back up just a little bit. Treble's dimed out. There's like one level of bass, a little bit of middle. Presence is at like 1 o'clock. And then on the power amp side of the Randall, I have the master at like 11. The presence almost completely maxed out, and the density completely scooped. Because as I mentioned, I run the modules anyway because this needs the fog lifter mod. But now I will show you how to get kind of the what I call the best of both worlds tone, where you can get a decent clean tone and a good gain tone as well. So here is the clean tone. This is with my Boss CE tuned loop, which is the secret to the metallic clean. I don't care what anyone says. So I like bringing back the volume 1 way back when I turn that lead shift on, because it just adds in a lot of low end and adds in a lot more what feels like output gain. And if you have this, where I did a moment ago, it just kind of flubs it out. So I think it sounds regardless better like that anyway, but then also you can use the clean channel still. There's that little volume spike I talked about, by the way. Here's back on the lead. Here it kind of goes like wow. That's what I was referring to. So if you're gonna be switching back from clean to lead, just kind of regain it or pre it a little bit. In conclusion, how do I feel about the Synergy 2CP? I feel like, again, Steve did a great job in recapturing that soul of the Mark IIC+, given the limitations of having extra tubes in the chain that kind of mess with the graphic EQ a little bit. And again, all intents and purposes, I think if you run it into an SN1, then you should be fine because you don't have to worry about the preamps. But if you run into an SN50 or an RM50 or an RM100, then just, goose the master volume and keep the channel volume low. Seems to make it sound really good. I'm overall pretty happy with it. I'm extremely thankful to the Persian Yeti for getting me the steal on this. You know who you are. And again, I'm probably hearing you, why should I go for this? Why shouldn't this doesn't do the Mark IIC+ tone, blah blah blah. The point is not to get dead on. Every amplifier is going to sound different from each other, whether it comes to part tolerances or it's just going to be coming to fucking playing. That thing you should be doing is practicing and, trying to get your hand as tight as possible. That factors in too. But the main thing that I'm trying to bring light of to here is that you don't have to go out and spend $14,000 for a single piece of analog hardware that gets that old school 80s sound. There is now a $300 alternative, though to be fair, you have to dump a couple hundred either into one of these old Randall RM100s, and you have to add in another couple hundred for getting the Midi modification, or you can get the SN50 or the SN1. So it's not like there's a cheaper alternative or anything that was American made in the early 90s that also was a blue stripe too, just kind of like what the Mark IIIs did. That was made by a competitor to Mesa Boogie or anything that not only sounds like the Mark IIC+, but even more aggressive. It's not like that exists or anything. Oh, fucking wait. Clean tone, we've heard enough of that. This is the PV Ultra 120. It's nicknamed the Teal Stripe for obvious reasons. I think mine's from 92, 91, somewhere around there. All tube. It only takes 4 preamp tubes, by the way. Just American made, super heavy in the literal and in the tones sense of the word here. By the way, that was not even the Ultra channel, that was the Crunch channel. That's the lower gain channel. The reason why it's so heavy is like that is because, kind of similar to the Mesa, the EQ on this is active, where it's boosting 15 decibels for each of the EQs. It is not it's not pre-gain, so it's a little bit different, but as you can see with my settings here, you just dime the treble, almost dime the bass, and keep the mids around noon, and you've got... Let's go to that Ultra channel, shall we? I got this for $250 from a pawn shop. No, do not spend over $800 for one in mint condition. Yes, go for one that has a foot switch, because if you do not have the foot switch, you cannot go to the Crunch channel. You can only go between clean and lead, but as you can tell, don't really need it. The Crunch is very nice to have, but it's really just all about that clean and all about that gain. This, in my opinion, beats out the Synergy 2CP module, but if you already have a Synergy setup, go for that. If you're just going for one completely from scratch, look for one of these. They made a 60 watt and 100 watt variant, or 120 watt variant. Go for one of them, but don't overspend on it. Do not let people scalp this fucking amplifier, or I swear I'm gonna come to your house in the middle